And I'm going to pull them up on the screen like they'll look like for y'all. All right, so y'all are seeing my screen?
Yes.
And I think, Donna Maria, you actually done this test last night, and you did pretty good on half of it, and then half of it we sort of got you, I think, was the way it was asking it and stuff. But you did good on this, and so if it's even or odd, y'all just count how many times that thing's touching that x-axis. This one's touching it, what, twice?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's even.
And that's an even number, so we're going to call that an even one. Good job.
See, that one I know. That's easy.
You wrote right this. You did pretty good on the first part, and then I got you toward the end, I think. But alrighty, so let me go by screen a second with my little camera.
So you're saying that the test that we're doing today, like the review, is almost like the one that we have that we're going to take?
Yeah, this one I'm reviewing is exactly like the test. And really that first question, they really can't change that first question. So I think even on your test, it looked just like the one I had on the first question. Oh, let me count. Let me write. So here's something y'all would want for this test. Is some of these basic graphs, because that's what them graphs are all going to start as. And the ones I'm using on the test was like the y equals x squared graph. And remember, the x squared graphs always look like a parabola. Another basic graph you had to worry about on this test was the absolute value graph. And remember that.
You know, there was one that I figured out,
and
it wasn't the answer. The answer wasn't there, but it was the correct answer.
All right, so we'll see when we hit. We'll pull your thing up after this, and we'll sort of look at it and see.
Yeah.
All right, I'm trying to see. There was a few basic graphs, but I only hit y'all with a few of these. On the other one was the square root graph. The square root of x graph, and that and just sort of curved out a little bit like that. So the ones y'all got to worry about when they ask that question on this one I was doing, let me go back to it for you. So this part where it says start with the graph of f of x equals blank, that needs to be one of those basic graphs. So since you see the exponent 2 here, you want this to be the x squared graph. So put your x, and then down here click the little box so you can do the exponent. And then we put in the exponent of 2. So you're going to start with the x squared graph, and then you got to figure out the 1. Well, the 1 is inside these parentheses with the x. Anytime the number is inside the parentheses with the x, that's going to go left or right. When it's positive, it goes left. When it's negative, it's going to go right. So when you click on this, since the 1 was positive, this is going to go left 1 unit. And then where the 2 is at the end, this 2 is negative. At the end of the graph is going to go up or down. So on that, and since it's negative, we're going to go down. So where'd my paper go here? So let me write that down. That was what a g of x equals x plus 1 squared minus 2. All right, so what you got to think on this problem when you're doing the test, This part right here where the X is inside the parentheses with the 1, positive moves left, negative is going to move right. Out here where I got the -2, positive moves up, and negative is going to move down. Whoops, I don't think y'all can see that all the way. Okay, so just mark this down. If it's positive, you're moving left, negative moving right, then at the end, positive would move up, negative would move down. So this right here was your horizontal, and at the end does the vertical. All right, so I think we put that in, and they're going to want me to graph this probably. So that's been getting a few people on the graphing. So we put that down, and then we're going to click to enlarge the graph. So on this test, since you got an x squared on your equation, you got to use the x squared tool and just stick it right in the middle of that graph. It'll draw a parabola. We got to move it around according to what we said up there. So I said I was going to shift this left 1 unit. So that would be a horizontal move, 1 unit to the left. And then I got shifted down 2 units. Well, that's a vertical shift. So come over here to the vertical and shift that to a -2. So notice it moved my graph left and down 2. So at that point, you're good. So you would save that and then move on to your next question. Alrighty, so let me write this one. This one is f of x equals the square root of x plus 9. So they're giving you the graph they started with, which was the square root of x. Now, since that is all up under that radical, you would treat this x plus 9 like it was in the parentheses, which means this is either going to move left or right. So let me show you on that one. So y'all on that, you got an f of x equals a square root of x plus 9. On this problem, if it's positive, it's going to move left again, just like it did up here. And if it's negative, it's going to move right. Okay, so mine is positive, so it's going to move left. So we're going to go over there and find a page. And right here, you're just going to go move left and then put in your 9. Now you got to figure out which one of these moved left. Now remember, all these graphs, these basic graphs always started in the middle. So find the one that looks like it went left from the middle. So this first one went down, that went right, this one went up. And if you notice, D did go to the left. So I'm going to click D, and then we're going to move on. All right, then this would be one of the last ones where we had to do these graphs. So I'm going to write this one down, and I'll show you what I would do to this. So I got a g of x equals negative x minus 7 squared plus a 4. So y'all on this one, if there's a negative in the very front, it's going to reflect across the x-axis. We won't reflect anything across the y-axis until test 4 material. So the only option you got on that is the x-axis, okay? Now, I'm inside the parentheses here. So once again, positive would move left. Negative moves right. That takes care of the part inside the parentheses. And then where I got that +4, positive moves up. Negative is going to move down. So I know this graph will reflect across the x-axis because of that negative. It's going to move right 7 units because that's negative. And then at the end, it's going to move up 4 units because that's positive at that end, okay? So we're going to go put all that in. And then I'm sure they'll make me graph this one. So start with the x squared graph. Shift it. So they're messing with the 7 first. So we said we went right 7, which would be my third choice there. Then reflect it across the x-axis. If anybody puts y-axis on that, it's definitely going to miss it, okay? Every single one of y'all will answer x-axis on that question. And then we said we went up 4 because that was positive. So once we click that, I don't know if this one will, let me just hit check. It might not make us graph this one. No, it didn't make us graph it, so it just had to do what the translations were, okay? Alrighty, so I'll write this one down. F of v equals v squared plus 10v plus 21, and they want me to find the zeros. So basically, when you see something that says find the zeros, they basically want us to find the answers. So the zeros are the solutions we get when the equation is set equal to 0. Okay, so what you would do is take this v squared plus 10v plus 21 and set it equal to 0. Now I made this one where it would be easy to solve by factoring, but if you're weak at factoring, you can use the quadratic formula, okay? But that quad's a little bit more work. So the v squared is only going to be a v and a v. You come in and that 21 is positive at the end. That means both of these factors will have the same sign as the middle number. So the middle number is positive 10. So both these factors will be positive like that. All right, Donna Maria, this is where you come in. Factors of 21 that add to get me 10. And that would be 3 and 7. You only had 2 choices. On 21, you got 1 times 21 or you got 3 times 7. Only one of those was going to equal to 10. Now remember, we got it factored. So now I can set both of these factors equal to 0 and finish solving them. So the first one, we would subtract 3 and we get v as a -3. Second one, you could subtract 7 and get v as a -7. But y'all remember, I gave y'all a program called Quad. So go to Program and down to Quad. Hit Enter and then Enter again. And just put the numbers that come in front of all these variables. So there's not a number there in front of the v squared, put a 1, Enter. 10 for your b, 21 for your c, and that's going to spit out -3 and -7, just like we solved for, okay? All right, so what would we do? Go put that answer in.
So it'd be 3, 6, 7.
Oh, I'm going to keep on going. I don't have to put the answer in. We know we'll. All right, so this one right here, I'm going to write this one down. X squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. They want me to find x-intercepts and the solutions. Oh, let me go back to that graph. I forgot something. So the x-intercepts, I need to look at the graph to get those. So there's 2 dots that are crossing the x-axis here. Now remember, when you do x-intercepts, it's telling you right here, type an ordered pair, which means grab the ordered pair down on your bar down here. So let's figure out the first point. So I'll zoom
Mr.
that in.
Eugene, your phone is kind of breaking up.
My what is? On my talking or my pictures?
It's your talking that's kind of blurring in and out just a little.
So hang on just a second. Let me do this. I'm going to switch over to my hover cam. Oh, I'm going to go back to I was on hover cam. Go back to the actual. All right, so now I'm on my computer audio.
Yeah, we can't even see you.
Oh, no, I had my picture blocked. You should be seeing my screen now. Y'all seen the graph?
Now we do.
Yeah. I took it off while I was fixing I had to change my voiceover. Am I breaking up now, though?
No, sir, you're not.
I'm so good.
Okay. Yeah, I just had to switch my microphone from my camera back to my computer. All right, so the x-intercepts, if y'all can see, I want this first point right here. That should be an x and a y. So the x value of that is -2. So I would come over here and put in my -2. To be an x-intercept, the y value has to be 0. So you go get that point, arrow over, put a comma, and then grab these ordered pairs again. And then we're going to get this second point here. So that point has an x value of 4. And once again, since it's the x-intercept, the y value has to be a 0. Y'all, those got to be put in as ordered pairs inside those parentheses. If not, it will mark that wrong, okay? Now, for the solutions, I'm going to go back and solve that. So I'm going to solve this, x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0, to find my solutions. So once again, I would probably factor this one. That's an x squared, so I got an x and an x. So y'all watch this. The last number is negative. Anytime the last number is negative, one of these is positive, one will be negative. So also, this negative tells me to find factors of 8 that have a difference of 2. So what do we got? 2 guesses on that. It's either 1 and 8, 2 and 4. So we're going to go with 2 and 4 on that one, right?
It's happening.
Now, the larger number has to have the same sign as the middle number every single time you factor. So the 4 will be negative and the 2 will be positive. And y'all, what's the rest? Just set them equal to 0 and solve them. Now you could have hit this with the quad also. But the first one, subtract 2, you get x is a -2. Second one, I would add 4 and get x is a +4. So -2 and 4. But y'all, you knew that, right? Because there's a -2 sitting in that point and a 4 sitting on that point. And one of the things we was learning in this section is that the x-intercepts, x value is the same as the solutions to these, okay? So really, did you have to do any of that? No, you could have said, oh, well, I know these are my x-intercepts, so one will be -2 and one will be 4 for my solutions, okay? All right, let me see, 7. Oh, there's the fun one, okay. All righty, so let me write what I got. I got a 13-foot wire. The tower is 7 feet greater than the distance from the tower to the wire. So they want me to find the distance and the height of this tower. So it looks like we need a picture for this. All right, so I'm about to fix y'all on this one. I got me a tower sitting here. And then what they did, they tied a wire from my tower to the ground. I know this wire is 13 feet long. Now, they did tell me that the height of this tower is 7 feet longer than the distance here from the tower to the wire. So I'll just call that D. I think that's what they were calling it, distance D, which means that this tower is going to be the D plus 7. So y'all, yours is going to set up pretty much just like this, other than your wire might not be 13 and it might not be 7 feet taller than this distance, but it's going to be something similar to this, okay? So on this problem, I want to use the Pythagorean theorem. Now, the only thing that's peaky about the Pythagorean theorem is that this C has to be that longest side right there. C is always the hypotenuse. So this can be A and this can be B, or you could have did A and B. It don't matter on these which one's A and B, but it does matter that that side is the C. So for my A squared, I'm going to put into D and square it. My B squared would be the D plus 7 squared. That's going to equal C squared, which will be 13 squared. So this little equation right here is what I'm about to solve. And y'all, what I'm going to do first is figure out what is D plus 7 squared. So I'm going to do side work for that. So side work on a D plus 7 squared. That's going to be a D plus 7 times a D plus 7. So here we go. D times D is D squared. D times 7 is 7D. 7 times D is another 7D. And then 7 times 7 is 49. Now, before I put it over here, I'm going to add the like terms in the middle. So I get a D squared plus 7 and 7 is what, a 14D plus my 49. So now bring down this D squared, replace D plus 7 squared with this. So that was a D squared plus 14D plus 49. That's all going to equal the right side, which is 13 squared. So 13 times 13 is, anyone know? Oh, y'all must have been from Arkansas.
169.
Because most of y'all know what 12 times 12 is, but when I hit 13 times 13, we don't know because we quit in Arkansas on our 12s, right?
I had my voice on.
All righty, so to solve this, I'm going to add like terms on the left side. So I got 2D squared plus 14D plus 49 equals 169. Now, since this is quadratic, I need a 0 on the right side. So I'm going to subtract 169 from both sides. So y'all, I get a 2D squared plus 14D minus, let's see, that's going to be what, a 120. All that's equal to 0. All right, so at this point, you could factor that or hit it with the quadratic formula. Oh, I'll solve it by factoring real quick.
I'll tell you one thing. If I was going to factor this, do y'all see a number that everybody can divide by? I'm going to divide everybody by a 2. Because all these will divide by 2, and that'll make this equation a little bit better. Because 2 divided by 2 gives you a d squared. 14 divided by 2 is a 7d. 120 divided by 2 gives me 60. And all that's now equal to 0. All right, so y'all watch this. Factoring this. D squared would be a D and a D.
Then we can do 12 and 5.
Bam, there you go. So let me get my plus and minus. So 12 and 5 will give me 7. 12 is larger. And then the 5 will be my negative, right? Now the last step is to set both of these equal to 0. So let me see. I had D plus 12 and D minus 5 was all equal to 0. So let me pull that over. Now, set both of them to 0 like we said. So that this one you subtract 12 and you're going to get a negative 12. This one I'll add 5 and get D as a positive 5. Now remember, since we're talking about the distance from my tower to the wire right here, only one of these answers makes sense.
It's the 5 because we can't have a negative.
Bam, there you go. So cancel the negative distance and keep the 5, which means we knew the wire was 13. If this side is 5, how tall is this tower? And if you remember, we said that was what? D plus 7. So this would be 5 plus 7, which means that side would be 12. So it's 5 from the tower to the wire, and then the actual tower was 12 feet tall. So that's your trick on this one, is to really get it set up over here. Get it set up with your picture and then breaking out that the Pythagorean theorem, okay? Alrighty, so you would put them answers in, and then we're going to move to the next. So I'm just going to move on, and I think we got another one with a ladder, don't we? So let's see. I can see my internet's a little bit slow. All right, so this
So
one
on that one, Mr. Eugene, the distance would have been 5. The other one would have been the 12.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So what you'll do is the first one, once you get it signed, you'll put it in that first little box, and then go down and put your 12 in that second one.
Yes. Okay.
All right, so let me write what I got here. The ladder is 3 feet from the wall. The height that the ladder reaches on the wall and the length of the ladder are consecutive integers. So they only want to know how long is the ladder. They don't care how far it is from that wall. So let's go figure this one out. All right, so here's my wall. And then I got me a ladder leaning up against it. Now, I do know that this distance the ladder is from the wall right here, they said was 3 feet. And then they told me that the height that this ladder reached on this wall and the length of this ladder were consecutive integers. So that means if I let the wall be x, consecutive integers would be x plus 1. Okay, so consecutive integers means numbers like 1, 2, 3. To be consecutive, it'd be in a row. So to go from one integer to another, you add 1. And y'all should set up really close to this. You might have an x plus something else here, and then this 3 might not be a 3. but you would be really, really close to that, okay? But again, it looks like a right triangle. And that's the whole reason we're using the Pythagorean theorem, is because we got what we call a right triangle that has a 90-degree angle, okay? So Pythagorean theorem said a squared plus b squared is going to equal c squared. Once again, c has to be that hypotenuse, and then this can be a and b. So here we go. In place of the a, I'm going to put 3 and square that. In place of my b, I'm going to put the x and square that. That's going to equal my hypotenuse, which is an x plus 1 squared. So I'm going to do side work on that. Do some side work so we can figure this part out. So that is an x plus 1 squared. That's going to be an x plus 1 times x plus 1. So we're going to FOIL this again. So x times x is an x squared. X times 1 is a 1x. 1 times x is a 1x. And then 1 times 1 is a 1. And then probably add them like terms. So you get an x squared plus 2x plus the 1. So that'll replace the right side. So here we go. 3 squared is 3 times 3 is 9. Plus, can't do nothing with the x squared. But the x plus 1 squared is now a x squared plus 2x plus 1. So when you first start this, since you got the x squared terms, you need to get everything on one side equal to 0. So I'm going to put the 0 on this side because there's a lot more stuff over here. So I'm going to start out by subtracting the x squared. So bring down that 9. X squareds cancel. That's going to equal this side. Oh, y'all, look at that. Those x squareds cancel. So all that's left over here is a 2x plus a 1. So let me tell you what happens here. Since these x squared terms are all gone, this is not quadratic anymore. It's linear. So what you want to do is just solve this for the 1x. And we don't have to factor nothing. All we got to do is get the x by itself by subtracting 1. So 9 minus 1 gave me an 8. That's going to equal to 2x. And then come and divide both sides by the 2. So that 4 equals my x. But remember, they didn't ask me how high the ladder was on the wall. All they wanted to know was, how long is that ladder? Well, y'all, the ladder is not 4. The ladder would be 4 plus 1, which would give me 5. So my ladder is 5 feet long. Sort of a small ladder, I guess. So one of these problems with the wire stays quadratic, so you either got to factor it or hit it with the quad. This one turns linear, so just solve it, okay? So we said that ladder would be 5 feet, and then you would move on. All right, so this one was just a picture that I wanted you to use. Now, they're giving me everything I need with this vertex point. They're giving me negative 3, 3. So the vertex we're giving you is going to be the negative 3, 3, okay? So come in and put negative 3, and then put 3. You're going to put the exact point I got on that screen. The axis of symmetry is always the x value. But notice here it says type an equation. So on the axis of symmetry, you got to put x, and let me find the equals, and then the x value was the -3. So the x value will be the same as the axis of symmetry. The minimum or maximum value is the y value. And the y value on that is a 3. So you're going to come in there and put a 3. So y'all, that problem didn't need no work really. You just had to realize that that was that vertex point they're giving you. Put that point down, and then the axis of symmetry. If you drew an imaginary dotted line, it would cut that right in half at the 3 on the x-axis, or the -3. And then that minimum value is equal to the y value. We said that was 3, okay? So you're just getting that from that point on that picture. And then I think we actually had, okay, true or false? The graph of h of x equals x plus 2 squared can be obtained by translating the graph of h of x equals x squared left 2 units. So we drew this a while ago on those first 3 or 4 problems, and we said if it's inside parentheses with the x and it was positive, it would move left. And they're saying, hey, you can get this graph by moving this left 2 units. So that is definitely going to be true. And then move to the next. Hell, I don't think I've seen any of them being false on that one yet.
So I wouldn't have to try to solve that. So the x plus 2 squared, I wouldn't have to try to square that.
Oh, what I would do on that one, let me grab my picture. When we was doing this a while ago, so let me show you the one I would look at. I would go back to these things right here. And if it's inside parentheses, like we said, positive move left and negative move right. So I would just look at that kind of stuff. It's the same problem. And they're still looking at that. They're just trying to hit you with them true or false now.
Okay.
What you got to watch out for on that one, if they just said it moved right, but it really did move left, you know. But I think every time I've done that, it's been actually true. So we'll see. Now this one, all you got to do is take this formula here to h of t equals -16t squared plus 168t plus 6, and do the vertex formula to it. All this stuff over here, the 6 feet above the ground and the velocity of 168, that's how they're getting this over here, okay? So only worry about the equation on this problem. And it says, how long will it take the rocket to reach its maximum height? So how long? And then, what is the maximum height? So I'll show you what I would do to solve that. So since this is got a variable of t for time, once I solve it, the x coordinate will give me the how long. So it'll be like this: the time and the height. The stuff on the vertex, the x will give me the time. The y value is going to give me how high it'll go. So let's come over here, and to get that x value, I would use the formula -b divided by 2a. So -b, which is 16, divided by 2 times a, which is a -16. Oh, hold on. I did bad. My b is...
Your B is supposed to be 168.
Okay, can't read my own writing. I was about to say that was going to be a quick rocket. Alrighty, so I do know a negative divided by negative. I get a negative 168 over a negative, what's that, 32? So I do know that'll give me a positive number. So let's see, 168 divided by 32, 5.25. And I'm actually just going to keep that in decimal form for this one. And then I'll look back and see if they want me to round it to a certain amount or not, okay? But now that I know that that's 5.25, I'm going to find the height, and that'll be h of 5.25. So come in here where we got these two t's and put 5.25. So you got negative 16 times 5.25 squared plus 168 times 5.25 plus 6. So you take the x value, plug it back into the equation. So y'all, I'll just push that on this calculator. I got negative 16 parentheses 5.25 squared plus 168 times 5.25, and then I got plus 6. Alrighty, let's see what we get. Hitting enter, I get 447. So that means it took a little over 5 seconds for my rocket to reach a maximum height of 447. All right, let's see, back to the graph. So you'd put them in there, and it don't tell you whether you got to have fractions or decimals. So I would just probably keep mine as decimals and do 5.25 for that one. And then here we got what? 447. All right, number 12 is a domain. So I got f of x equals the square root 2x minus 1. Now, look at these answers. I'm pretty sure it's going to be something with a 1/2, okay? So you have to figure out which one of those to pick. So what you got to do on a radical is that 2x minus 1 has to be greater than or equal to 0. All right, solve that. First, you'll add 1 to both sides. So 2x is greater than or equal to 1. And then divide these by 2. So x will be greater than or equal to a 1/2. Y'all, here's the thing. Every one of those answers will look like that unless you divide by a negative and you got to flip it. Okay? Because it's got to be greater than or equal to these numbers. So go back. So greater than or equal has got to be C. Remember, you only use the not equals if it's a fraction, okay? So the radicals are always going to be greater than or equal unless you divide by a negative number and you got to flip it. Alrighty, so since that x minus 7 is under the radical, it's like the x minus 7 is in parentheses. So let me write that down and I'll show you on this one. So this is like parentheses. So if that's negative, you're going to move right. If it's positive, it's going to move left. So you always treat radicals like they're really got parentheses in them, okay? So it looks like mine is going to move right 7 units. So let's go look at, And remember, when these graphs are basic graphs, that thing should start in the middle, but since we're moving it right 7 units, it should come over here like that, okay? If that was positive, it would have moved left. So I just need to find which one went right. That one went down, it looks like. That one went right. This one went left. And this one went left and flipped somehow. So we need B, which moved right 7, okay? All right, so this one is g of x equals square root 4x minus 1. Now, I'm going to show you on my calculator what I would do to that to get the exact graph they got. So I'm going to go to my y equals and put in the square root of 4x minus 1. So the first thing you do is get the radical by hitting second x squared, bring up your radical, and then put in 4x minus 1. All right, so I'm not on my calculator, I don't think. All right, so I went to let me clear that. So I went to y equals, I hit second x squared to get the radical, and then I put in my 4x minus 1. So I've got the radical. Now, if you remember on that graph, let me show you on the graph. They're going from negative 10 to 10 on the x's, negative 5 to 5 on the y's. So let me show you how to set that on that calculator. That is what you call the window. So go to the window and hit that. So my x's are right. They had negative 10 and 10. Now I must have done switch these because by default that should say negative 10 and positive 10 on the y's. So just come in and put negative 5 and 5 on that. Now, we want to hit the graph because that's all they want me to look at. Now be really careful. You see my graph here. Let's go look at their graphs. You got two graphs that look really close. So I'm going to zoom this one in. So if you notice, that one goes a little bit left of the y-axis. This one, if you look, is a little bit past to the right of the y-axis. So I got to figure out, do I want B or C? So watch this. I'm going to go ask my calculator. If you want to, hit this zoom button right here and zoom it in once. So hit enter. Look, mine is definitely staying on the right side of that y-axis, okay? So I just zoomed it in once to see what it was. So I'm on the right side of the y-axis, so go to your picture. This one went to the left, so we gotta stay with C, which is to the right side. All right, then moving on. Now, I got some of y'all on this one. They want me to find f of negative 3, and all they want me to know is which of these three equations would you use? Would you use the 3x equation, the x squared equation, or the x minus 5 equation? So, negative 3. These are over here, tell you what the number's got to be. So is that negative 3 less than a negative 3? No, that's false. Is negative 3 equal to the negative 3? Yes. So since my negative 3 is equal to negative 3, which is what the second one's telling me, and it is still less than 1, I got to use the x squared equation, which would be my B. Okay? The only way I could use the 3x equation is if this was a negative 4, negative 5, negative 6 or something. Okay? And then the only way I could use the x minus 5 is if these numbers were 1 or bigger. So all we had to do is figure out which equation you would use to find that f of negative 3. And then I can move on. All right, so this ain't bad. Does that look like a maximum or minimum? And it's on top and it's a peak, so it's got to be a.
It's a
Well,
maximum.
it's
You
definitely
know
a,
how I remember those? If it's opening towards the bottom, it's like, I mean, if the top is the opening, then it's like going down
right.
towards the minimum. That's how I remember that one.
And exactly, that'll work. Now, it says the relative maximum occurs at x equals. Well, what's that x value? They're giving it to me. Let me zoom in. That looks like a 2.5. So you would come in and put the x value is 2.5. And it has a maximum value of the y value, which is a 2.25. This almost goes back to the one I did earlier with the picture. Now, on what interval is it increasing? Increasing is going uphill left to right. So it's on this left side that it's increasing until it hits this x value here at 2.5. So you're coming into x's from somewhere and you're cruising on the x's till you hit 2.5. You're coming in from negative infinity. So these come in from negative infinity over here and they head towards positive infinity on the right. So it says what interval is it decreasing? And you got to remember one thing when you're doing the increase and decreasing in constant intervals. You're only looking at x values, okay? The only time you do a y value is if they're asking for the minimum or maximum value. So now, the x value that this starts decreasing is that 2.5, and it's decreasing as you cruise out towards infinity. So we need a 2.5 to infinity. And what they're doing, they're just mixing them up, going different ways and stuff, trying to throw y'all a curveball. But y'all, no work on that. You just really had to look at the graph and get that 2.5 for those intervals, and then the 2.25 for the maximum value. All right, same thing, but this one had 2 on it. So first, we want the relative maximum. The maximum is this little peak right here. So the maximum value is -1 at x equals a, what's that, a -8? Let me zoom this thing in. And it happens at, so -1 is the value, and it happens at x equals -8. And I like this because they're actually putting the x equals, so you would know where to put each number, okay? Then you got a relative minimum right here, where the valley is. So that y value is what, -19. And the -19 happened at this x value of a -2. And then it's going to hit you with the increasing and decreasing. So notice increasing has 2 intervals because you got 2 parts where this is going uphill left to right. This first part right here is coming in from negative infinity. It's going up, up, up until I hit that x value of -8. So it's got to go from negative infinity to -8. And it starts going up right here at this x value of -2. And it's going up as I head towards infinity. So negative infinity to -8, and then -2 to positive infinity. So that looks like D for me. Now, decreasing is just this little part right here going downhill. It starts at this x value of -8, and it's going downhill until I hit this x value of a -2. So we need -8 to -2. So the only possible intervals can only be the x values, the -8 and the -2. It cannot be the -1 and the -19. So anything that has a -1, -19, you might as well throw out. okay? All right, y'all, so we got our min and max and our intervals, so we hit the next one. Now, this one you actually had to find these values. So let me write down my equation. H of x equals negative 4x minus 18 for x less than negative 3. It's going to equal 3 for negative 3 less than or equal to x less than 3. And then it's going to be x plus 2 for any x's that are greater than or equal to 3. They want me to find h of negative 10, h of 1, h of 3, and then h of 8. So really, this is almost like 4 problems in one. So here's my equations. Here's my 4 problems. So first of all, to find negative 10, I got to know if that negative 10 is less than negative 3, in between negative 3 and 3, or greater than 3. So negative 10 is definitely less than negative 3. So I would use this equation, negative 4x minus 18. In place of that x, I would put that negative 10. Now, you got to multiply before you subtract. So negative 4 times negative 10 is 40 minus my 18. And let's see, 40 minus 18 is what, 22? So h of negative 10 is 22. H of 1. Well, 1 is not less than a negative 3. 1 would be in between a negative 3 and a positive 3. So since negative 1 is in between these two numbers, I would use the second equation. Well, hey, that says, hey, anything in that range equals 3. Because you don't have a variable to substitute your number in. So anything from negative 3 up to 2 equals 3, and that's it. That's like a constant equation going through there, okay? Now, h of 3. If I put a 3 here, 3 is not less than 3. So let me try this one. This one says 3 is greater than or equal to 3. So since 3 equals 3, I'm going to use the last equation, which says x plus 2. I'm going to replace the x with the 3. So I get 3 plus 2, which is 5. All right, y'all, then finally, h of 8. 8 is definitely bigger than 3, so I would use the last equation, which is x plus 2. In place of the x, put an 8. And then 8 plus 2 is 10. So my 4 answers was 22, 3, 5, and 10. Now, y'all, I ain't never showed y'all what I'm about to show you, but that calculator, I can knock this out pretty quick. So watch this, what I'm about to do. So I'm going to go to y equals and clear everything out. So what you got to do on the calculator is you're going to put each equation in parentheses. So watch what I do. I'm going to do parentheses, negative 4x minus 18, close parentheses. And then I'm going to multiply and put parentheses for its domain here. So this is what? X is less than negative 3. So x, second math to get to less than. So let me see, where's my less than? Right there. Hit enter. And then that would be negative 3, close parentheses. So I've got the first section in. Now I'm going to add the second one in. So parentheses. Whoops, hang on. Before you put parentheses, since I'm doing a new section, put plus. And then parentheses for the next equation, which is the 3, multiply by its domain. Now, this is a 2-part domain, so you got to put it in like I'm about to. So first of all, negative 3 less than or equal to x, hit second math. Let me find less than or equal. And then that was a X. And then you got to hit and. And, let me find, and is where, second catalog, and is the second choice. Hit enter. And then I'm going to put X, second math to get the less than 3, close parentheses. So I've got the second part in. Now to add the third part, you put plus, put the equation in parentheses, X plus 2, close parentheses, and then multiply by its domain in parentheses, which is X, second math to get the greater than or equal 3, close parentheses. So I'll send y'all a video doing this. I think I got a video doing this exactly. Now, watch what this looks like when you graph it, because it's a piecewise function. So, whoops, let me get back to the regular graph. Let me zoom 6. So there's the first part, then there's the second part going across, and then there's the third part. So this part's doing the negative 4x minus 18. This part's doing the equals 3. Notice how it's constant. And then this last part's doing the x plus 2 of the graph. But hey, we don't care what the graph looks like. We just want to find these values. So y'all watch this. I'm going to go to the table, second graph. And I'm going to go find negative 10 on my x's. And at negative 10, you got a y value of 22. Then you go find 3 on the x's. So when I go find 3, at 3, I got a y value of, hold on, what is that? Hold on. I must put my graph in. Oh, no, hold on, that's h of 1. My bad, I was tripping there for a second. At h of 1, I get a 3. At h of 3, which I just did, I get a 5. And then what's next? H of 8. Yeah, h of 8. At 8, I get a 10. So the graph will give you all these values when you put it in as a piecewise function, okay? So use this video, and then I'll send one today putting in them piecewise functions to give you more practice at it. But what you do, you got to put in each equation in parentheses and multiply by its domain in parentheses, okay? So if y'all are wanting to get better on the calculators, there's a thing that's nice to be able to do on it, okay? So we would put in all them answers and move to 19. All right, so what I got, f of x equals negative 9x plus 9. They want me to do the difference quotient. Hey, does anybody know the slope of that line? F of x equals negative 9x plus 9. So the y equals mx plus b. The slope is really going to be that negative 9. And remember, this is a fancy slope formula, so when we're done, we better get a negative 9 on this one, okay? So I'm going to go work this one out. So they're giving me the f of x part. I got to find the f of x plus h part. So here we go. F of x plus h will equal this equation, negative 9 times x, which is x plus h, plus my 9. Now, you would distribute to get rid of the parentheses. So negative 9 times x is a negative 9x. Negative 9 times h is a negative 9h. And then at the end is a plus 9. So you can't do anything else to that. So now I'm going to put everything into my formula. F of x plus h minus the f of x will all be over h. I know f of x plus h, I just found it. Negative 9x minus 9h plus 9. They gave me f of x, which was a negative 9x plus 9. But y'all remember, everything on this part is going to cancel with the same stuff in the first one. Because this negative 9 is really a positive 9. It's going to cancel with the negative 9x. And this is a negative 9 that's going to cancel with a positive 9. So I end with a negative 9h over h. So my last step would be to cancel those h's, and I end up with a final answer of negative 9. So the trick on this is coming up with this f of x plus h, because everything over here is going to cancel with everything over here that does not have an h, okay? So y'all, you would put that answer in, what do we say, negative 9, and then move on to the next one. Oh, it looks like number 20, so that's usually the fun one. Yep, so the same thing, except this one was what, a f of x equals 10x squared plus 9x plus 10. I think the one I put on my bonus for y'all is about like this one, okay? So let's go work this one. So once again, I got to find f of x plus h. That's going to be 10 times x plus h squared plus 9 times x plus h plus a 10. Now, x plus h squared, if you've done this section, you've foiled this thing a whole lot of times. So that'll be x plus h times x plus h. And when y'all foiled it, x times x was an x squared. X times h was a hx. H times x is a hx. H times h was a h squared. And then add the like terms. So 1h plus 1h gave me 2hx. And then at the end is my h squared. Every time you foil that, you're going to get that answer. So you'll use that on your test too, okay? So now, I'm going to replace the x plus h squared with this. X squared plus 2hx plus h squared. I'll bring everything else down. So finally, I'm now going to get rid of parentheses by distributing a 10 here and a 9 here. So 10x squared plus 10 times 2 is 20hx plus 10h squared. Then distribute the 9, you get a 9x plus a 9h. At the end is a positive 10. And if you look through this, none of these are like terms. So I got a big f plus x plus h minus my f of x all over my h. So let me write this in here. 10x squared plus 20hx plus 10h squared plus 9x plus 9h plus 10. F of x they gave us was a 10x squared plus a 9x plus 10. You'll get good at these once you figure out that all the stuff without the h's is canceling out. You can take this, cancel that stuff, and then divide by the h's and be done, okay? So watch this. Negative 10x squared cancels with a positive 10x squared. That's going to make that a negative 9x. It's going to cancel with a positive 9x. That negative is going to make that a negative 10. It's going to cancel with that positive 10. So what's left is a 20hx plus a 10h squared plus 9h all divided by h. So now cancel one h out of everybody. So you cancel that h, you end up with a 20x. plus 10 h squared divided by h leaves you 1h. And then 9h divided by the h, those h's cancel and you end up with a 9. So Donna Maria, let me tell you what happened on you on this problem last night. You had it right, but somehow you wrote a comma in there right there and it marked it wrong. But you had everything right. It was just that somehow you had an extra comma, or it might have been a period or something you accidentally hit probably. And that's why it marked you wrong on your number 20. But hey, it was right. It was just the way it put in. All righty, so I put that in, and oh, that's it, y'all. So we're done with this. So we can, I'll submit it just to get it out of the way. So I missed a few because I didn't put in answers. So we missed 4, so we should get what, 82 or something maybe, 84. Oh, we made it 80. We missed 4, but we didn't put answers on them, so we're good. Now, check this out. When y'all do this review, if you want to see what happened, just go click on this review test right here. Once you click on review test, it'll bring up the stuff and you can sort of go through your problems.
Can you go back to what you wrote on the last question?
On my sheet,
Yeah, please.
on this right here.
It didn't come in. There it goes. Now I want to see something. Okay.
Now, Donna Maria, yours is the one I seen on the answer. You had an extra comma or period there. That's why it marked that wrong on you.
I know my computer's been acting.
Because I was looking at it. Yeah, that's all it. You had everything right. It just had an extra. It was either a period or a comma somehow you hit.
Yeah.
And so that's why it was. If it does that on a test, I would override that.
Okay.
So y'all's 20 questions are going to be like my 20 questions. Now see, this is letting you review it, so you can go back and sort of see what you put on it. It'll let you click on the answers up here, and
Mr. Eugene, how do you use Zoom on your calculator?
okay, let me pull that back up.
Thank you.
All right, so let me pull on here. So to get back to a regular screen 10 by 10, you would hit Zoom and number 6 for standard. And that's going to bring you back to a regular 10 by 10 screen. So if I want to zoom in to see stuff better, so I think I had this one in here. Second square root, what was it? 2x minus 3. Oh, it must not have been that. But to zoom it in, you got that zoom button right on the top, hit the zoom button, and then you just go down to zoom in and hit enter on it. It brings you back to the screen, hit enter one more time, and it zooms it in. And then if I wanted to go back to my regular screen, I would go back to zoom and then down to standard. And then notice it puts it back as a 10 by 10. Let me find that one real quick.
Thank you. I couldn't figure out how to go back.
Mm-hmm. I think the one I had was, let me go back to my y equals. I had second square root 2x minus 1. So let me graph that. And Because on that, you really couldn't tell which side it was on. Did it actually cross over that y-axis or did it stay to the right? So then I said, okay, I'm going to zoom and zoom in and hit enter and then enter again. And then you can definitely tell it's staying on that right side. All right, so let me go back to standard and be done. Whoops, I'm gonna stop my share. Well, I'm starting to get my rain here. Oh, I never had my video. I see what y'all saying. My video never turned on. Y'all, it's gonna be in the same order as my review. The only difference, they're just gonna change up a few numbers on it, okay? But everything is gonna be like my questions. Hell, some of y'all might even get the same exact questions the way it does its test generator only has so many problems in it, you know, so some of y'all will probably get questions I did, or when you're working it, you might get some of them questions on your test, okay?
Mr. Eugene,
Yeah.
this is Renee. I still cannot do the X squared and the interval notations.
All right, so
So-
let me see something real. I'm gonna go to my screen here. So let me see one where I had to put something in. Well, you don't have to do interval notation on here. You just had to pick one of the answers at least for that. So let me see. Let me go through this because I don't think you had to put any squares in. So going through it, you shouldn't have no answers where you got to do exponents or interval notation. So you should be good on this one.
Okay.
It's the homework that's going to get you, you know.
That's what gave me.
And we can overcome the homework on those. But this one, since it's multiple choice on those intervals, you should be good on this one.
Okay. Well, good. Okay. Did you ever find the number to Pearson? If not, I just email them.
Oh, I thought you got a hold of them.
I did, and they were selling like some auto repair insurance or something like fixing your car with that
We got
number.
the right number. Let me get the number again for you.
Yeah, try that number again because what we had yesterday was 877-669-7484.
Yeah, they said that was like the wrong number. They were selling like something to repair cars.
Yeah, I used to have their number, but when they switched over to the new book, I don't think I've got it yet. I always
What was that number again?
1-877-669-7484.
I called them the other day at work.
Well, when in doubt, Well, they ain't answering no time soon, are they? Mm-mm-mm. Oh, I don't know what happened. All right. Hey, Renee, I'll try to get a hold of my chair. Let me make me a note. She'll be able to get that.
Okay.
So get customer support number from Denise. Okay. Yeah, give me about 20, 30 minutes and I'll try to email you that. Or I got your text number. I'll just text it to you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So y'all, I'm going to quit recording.